He told us this is a day of national consecration. And on this day of national consecration and my induction into the presidency, I am certain that the American people want me to speak to them with candor and decision. This is preeminently a time for speaking the truth, the whole truth, boldly and frankly. This great nation will endure. It will revive and it will prosper. I am certain that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror that paralyzes every effort to turn retreat into advance. And at every dark hour of our nation's history, the American people have responded to decisive leadership with the support that is essential to victory. Our times are critical, but thank God they involve only material things. For Roosevelt is telling you, the American people, as you sit around your radio, as you've been in the bread line that day trying to feed your children, that as long as our spirit endures, our love of freedom, we can get through anything. But values have sunk to fantastic levels. The banks are frozen, the credit system is frozen, the crops of the farmer rot in the field while the city goes hungry, and millions of Americans are out of work. Why? This is not a natural disaster. We have not been struck by a plague of locusts. Our country is a land of plenty, but the plenty lies unused. Why? It is the failure of the rulers of the exchange of mankind's goods. The money changers, he calls them. They have failed, they have admitted their failure, and they have abdicated. They offer us solutions in the old mold. We've ruined our credit, loan us more money. We have swindled the American people with promises of false prophets. Give us your confidence. Well, we have driven them from our temple, and we will rebuild it. We will put an end to people speculating with other people's money. And we will restore the idea that you are in high place in business as in politics, not just for pride and profit, but because you have been entrusted with that position. Do you understand it? You want confidence, you perform your duty for others. But we're not going to solve this by ethics. We're going to do it by action. And then he lays out the action. We're going to put people to work by the millions, just the way we did in the World War. We're going to draft them in. And did it work? You'll walk over streets in any American town, and you'll see a sidewalk built by what? The WPA. You'll see swimming pools still used every summer day by the WPA. We're going to re-examine the production system of our country. And the country's government can be mobilized for utilities, transport, and we are going to fix the banks. So we move forward, he said, in the warm glow of national unity. We move forward in the clear consciousness of seeking old and precious values. We move forward with the clean satisfaction of doing your duty. We can do all of this under our Constitution, our traditional balance of legislative and executive. I am going to send Congress immediately proposals, and I expect them to send me their proposals. But this I tell you, if Congress does not send me adequate proposals, and if they do not respond to my proposals, then I, under the Constitution, will ask for a grant of executive power as broad and sweeping as if we were invaded by a foreign foe. Now, is that telling Congress what it's going to do, yes or no? Yes. Democracy has not failed. The American people have not failed. They have gone to the polls and they they have registered their will, and I am the present instrument of that will. So on this day of national consecration, we humbly ask the blessings of God. May He protect each and every one of us. May He guide us in the days to come. And Franklin Roosevelt, his leadership in the Depression, his leadership in the Second World War, that is the model of a leader in a time of crisis, who understands the uniqueness of the American tradition, who understands that we fix our problems at home, and who understands how fragile freedom is. Well, thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Libby Fears, what can you tell us about George W. Bush's economic crisis?
What can I tell you about George W. Bush? Yes. I thought I told you about it, by the lessons of history.
Okay. What did you say?
Now what I say, what I told you. One, the lessons of history are that if you have a huge and enormous debt and you do nothing about it, you have first economic crisis and then political crisis. Two, if you go around worried about spreading freedom to the world as a whole and letting your own economy be destroyed in the process, you will have economic chaos. The futile search to spread freedom to the world, to involve us in a war in Iraq and in Afghanistan, at the same time you are cutting taxes and running up an enormous debt based entirely on reckless spending, is to ignore every possible lesson of history. Exactly what was done in 1921, exactly what was done in the Solon's Athens, and exactly what was happening in our country in 1786. And the lessons of history is obliquely to learn from the past so you don't repeat those failures. And how the failures of am I telling you now? How the failures of 1929 could have been repeated in this great age of science and technology is extraordinary. People who never should have been in the stock market in 1929 were in it. People were buying cars, refrigerators, big radios, and washing machines with money they didn't have, and they were encouraged to do it. And greedy speculators were profiting enormously. So, that was 1929 lesson. 1919 lesson from Woodrow Wilson is, the American idea of democracy is unique. You're not going to spread it to the rest of the world, and if you undertake so, you will leave the world a more dangerous place than you found it. The world was far more dangerous in 1919 than it was in 1914. Adolf Hitler was unthinkable before 1914. Joseph Stalin was unthinkable before 1914. And yes, sir, with the economic crisis and the unsolved issues in the Middle East, the world is more dangerous in 2008 than it is in 2000. That's your answer? Yes. Any other questions?
Sure.
Yes.
The lessons of history leading to our understanding of freedom. Right now, we're coming to the end of what has been called the unitary theory of government, under which the commander-in-chief absorbs power from the legislative and judicial branches, and it's all concentrated in him.
Mm-hmm.
Is that inimical to freedom?
Well, yes. It is to our American form of freedom. The founders were quite aware as well that there are really two kinds of democracy. One is a liberal democracy, such as we have, and one is an illiberal democracy. Both National Socialism and the Soviet Union were democratic. What is the full official name of North Korea? The People's Republic of Korea. But in those, the will of the people is channeled through one great leader, or one great party. And in our system, from the beginning, the founders said, that's dangerous. And the legislative and the judicial and the executive branch must be balanced. And time again, Congress has allowed a strong president to usurp power.